Hello everyone, welcome to the first lecture of ninth week of Scalable Data Mining course. We are continuing with the topic of similarity search and locality sensitive hashing. Okay, so we have discussed various locality sensitive hashing schemes, and we have seen that it is a fairly general kind of scheme which can work on many different similarity and distance measures. Okay, and it is able to retrieve points which are nearest to a particular point, or even something like all pair nearest neighbor. So it's able to solve both kinds of problems for when the nearness or the similarity is defined by uh, some specific either similarity measures or distance measures. And we have seen two broad types of this. One is the Charikar type, which is a bit more strict, and then we have seen the uh, Motwani and Indic and Motwani type. Okay, where one can do a little, one can design a bit more relaxed family of hash functions so that we can do LSH search. Okay, so today we are going to see an advancement of LSH which uh, actually makes LSH or the techniques that we have discussed till now more efficient. Okay, so the technique is called multiprobe LSH. Okay, so before we go into multiprobe LSH, let us see, or let us recall the overall procedure how LSH is applied. Okay, so how is LSH applied? So you have basically input data set. Okay, so at the beginning, even before starting the application of the procedure, you have an input data set. Okay, and then you have some sort of a radius r. Okay, so before applying LSH itself, you will decide on a radius r within which you will retrieve all possible neighbors. So this is also called the near neighbor search problem. Okay, uh, that you want to retrieve all neighbors which are within a radius of r from any point. Okay, this is the problem. Okay, and then you specify an approximation factor c. We have discussed this already. So the idea is that you are willing to tolerate up to c times r points, up to c times r, but uh, points beyond c times r radius are considered bad. So you have an approximation factor of c. So you are so even though you are interested in retrieving points within radius r, you are tolerant to up to c times r, retrieving points within c times r radius. Okay, but c is here greater than 1. Okay, uh, and then you have a confidence factor delta. So with probability delta, you want to uh, with probability 1 minus delta, you want to return this. Okay, or you want to find this. Okay, now yeah, so output is, if there is a point at distance less than or equal to r, then with probability 1 minus delta, return 1 at distance uh, less than or equal to CR. Okay, so this is the problem. Okay, uh, now how do you go about solving this problem? So as we discussed, you choose K and L. Okay, there are L hash tables, each having K hash functions. Okay, so each hash table is basically, you can think of it as having a k dimensional hash function. Okay, then you draw this IID hash functions hi1. So for each hash table, so I is the ID of the hash table, let's say. So you draw this hi1 till hik. Okay, and then you call this capital Hi. Okay, and you have this vector of hash buckets, which is capital Hi x, which is like a vector of hash buckets. Now, once you store the data points in these hash buckets, okay, um, okay, then you want to so basically, yeah, so for each of these hash buckets you want to store uh, the data points which are hashed to this particular hash bucket. Okay, and then you store the non-empty hash buckets in a normal hash table. Okay, so this can be just a hash map. So the key here is that, so note here that you can have a very high number of hash buckets here, because so each coordinate is going to, is going to some very suppose so if you recall, so suppose for each coordinate you have, let's say, certain numbers, let's say m many hash buckets. So here actually you will be getting m to the power k many different hash buckets. Okay, but many of these hash buckets will be empty, so you only need to store the non-empty hash bucket. Another thing to note here is that you just need to store pointers to. Okay, so at query time now, so this is when you are creating the hash table. So it operates in two phases. First, you create this LSH data structure. Okay, so this is what you do when you create. So this, you do a single pass over the whole data set to create this LSH data structure. Okay, now at query time you want your query time to be sublinear, of course. So what do? You get a query queue. Okay, so suppose you have a query queue. Okay, so you find out all the points. So you first hash this query queue using these L hash tables. Okay, and then you figure out the hash buckets of for this particular query queue. Now you have already done the pre-processing, and you know for each of these corresponding hash buckets, okay, which are the points. Okay, so you find out all points in all these L hash buckets. Okay, and then you can check through these points, and you can return the ones whose radius is less than or equal to CR. Now here there is a point. Okay, so L, okay, which is the number of hash tables. Okay, this determines the space complexity. Okay, uh, because you have uh, for each of these hash tables, okay, you need to store the hash buckets. Okay, yeah, so this is number one, and as we discussed, the maximum space is something like n times L. Okay, and L we know is, it is sufficient to choose L as n to the power rho. Okay, so where rho is a number less than 1. So you basically have space complexity of n to the power 1 plus rho. Okay. Okay. Mm, okay. So what is the problem with this scheme? Okay. So the main problem or the practical problem with this scheme is that it requires superlinear space, or it requires actually strongly superlinear space. Okay, so what does this mean? That basically, if you see, so suppose, so typically you will have a data set which is somewhat medium to large size. Okay, so your n is going to be something, and the number of data points, okay, is going to be something, let's say 10 to the power 6, or something, or even 10 to the power like, suppose it is 10 to the power 4. Okay, now you are looking at um, space complexity which is n to the power something like, let's say, 1.4. Okay, 1.4. So there are many schemes. Okay, there's a complicated scheme which can achieve something like n to the power 1.25, but it is, let us say, roughly this is n to the power 4. Okay, um, okay, so now 1.4. Okay, so that basically means that you are, so if it is 1.5, let's say, so actually your space complexity becomes 10 to the power 6. Okay, so we go of 10 to the power 6. Okay, so this is a large jump up. Okay, so even in practice people have seen that sometimes your LSH table may become maybe 5 to 20 times, uh, it may take that much memory more than the data set itself. So if you were to store the data set itself, it the amount of memory that it will take 5 to 20 times more than that. Okay, uh, now this is somewhat uh, uh, okay, so we have discussed this. So and if you have let's say a medium to high dimension data, because it's also so the whole processing is also linearly dependent on the dimension of the data. Okay, so but it's effective if you have a medium dimensional data. Okay, with medium to high dimensional data with a lot of data points. Okay, so the typical use case is image search. Okay, so you can embed an image into so there are huge image libraries, and suppose you want to do a content based image retrieval. Okay, so let's say you want to do a content based image retrieval. Okay, okay, it is very useful there. So there is this paper by Malcolm Slany. This is actually a image from that paper. Okay, uh, okay, so now, so but this curse of superlinear space is still there. Okay, so how can we sort of solve this problem? Okay, so first of all, we have to make some assumptions. Okay, so um, and so we have to do two things. One is that we cannot give guarantees as previously. Okay, we can give guarantees or general guarantees as we discussed previously, but we can make assumptions. Okay, and in practice these algorithms work very well. Okay, here, or what is the idea here? Okay, so the idea is the following. Okay, so let me explain the idea. So see, you need these L many hash tables. Okay, L many hash tables. Okay, why do you need L many hash tables? You see, the main idea here is that in each hash table you have k dimensional vectors, or k you know, k dimensional hash functions, let's say. So hash functions, hash buckets, whatever you want to say. Okay, now we know that as k increases, your recall drops. Okay, so we are now going to use a terminology which is borrowed from information retrieval. Okay, so as your k increases, your recall drops. That is, the number of points that you retrieve, it drops drastically. We know this. Okay, and why do we need these L many hash tables? If you recall, as L increases, the number of your recall also increases. So the number of retrieved points also increases. Okay. So if you remember, the formula was something like this, that it is like 1 minus p to the power k, and then 1 minus this to the power L, right? So this, so as your, yeah, so as, you know, where P is the probability that, uh, you know, uh, something falls to the same bucket. Okay. This is, of course, this is a similarity basically. So this is the probability that, you know, a nearby data point falls to the same bucket. Okay, uh, and then you see, uh, if yeah, so if this probability, so if you use many such hash functions, there is a high, the chance becomes higher that even a nearby data point will not fall to the same bucket, because for one of those hash functions it will just fall to a far away bucket. Okay, now this is where the new idea comes in. Okay, so the idea is this. Okay, so and this is the reason why we had to raise it to this, you know, power L. So we had to take ORing of L hash tables, right? So this is the reason. Okay, the nearby hash buckets can also, nearby data points can also fall outside, just because of the randomness of the hash function. Okay, so now, uh, what can we do? So the idea is that, can we have a notion of nearby buckets? Okay, so suppose your data point, you know, P is actually in this bucket. Okay, and now you are using some kind of a hashing mechanism. Okay, and you have used a reasonably high k, and for that reason, okay, your data point Q, okay, which is actually supposed to fall in this bucket, has now fallen in some other bucket. Okay, so the question is, which bucket would it fall? Okay, and the answer is, probably there's a very low chance that it will fall into a very far away bucket. Now remember, in the hash tables, in the general hash function sense, we don't have any nearby bucket and far away buckets. We only, all buckets are equidistant, or there is no notion of distance between the buckets. Okay, but in practice we have. Okay, so we will see how it comes. Okay, uh, okay. So now you see that. So let's say. So there's a chance that it will fall into a nearby bucket. So let's say it will fall into this bucket or this bucket. Okay, so let us call this like so this is the bucket of h of p. Let us call it h of p minus 1 and h of p plus 1. Okay, so now the question is, okay, can we, so if we don't find enough number of points, let's say in this bucket, okay, or if we don't find yeah, so enough number of points in this bucket, let's say, can we also probe its nearby buckets? Okay, that way we don't have to create many of these hash tables, so we can reduce, so our aim here is to reduce the number of hash tables. If we can reduce the number of hash tables, that reduces the memory at the cost of, you know, having not reducing the recall. So remember, we increase the number of hash tables in order to increase recall. See, so our precision does not increase with L. Okay, that is, we actually introduce some more false positives as we increase L. Okay, but we reduce the chance of false negatives. Okay, so this is the main idea behind uh, multi-probe LSH. Okay, okay, so there are two works that we will describe here. One is called entropy based LSH. So this is an earlier work, and so both use this common idea that I just described. Okay, but but this earlier work, it does a little bit of worse job, I would say. I mean, it is a bit more inefficient, and then we will describe multi-probe LSH, which is actually very efficient version, which is also used sometimes. Okay, but the advantage of this entropy based LSH is that it is somewhat more general than multi-probe LSH. Okay, so what do we do in entropy based LSH? So suppose, assume that we know RPQ, which is the distance of point P from query. Okay, now buckets are random partition of data. Okay, so each bucket has some set of data. Now the success probability of a bucket, okay, that is the probability of a bucket containing P, depends on this RPQ. Okay, so the probability that a particular bucket depends on uh, has a near neighbor P of Q, okay, depends on the distance of this near neighbor with the uh, bucket. Okay, so ideally we can sort the buckets by this probability. Okay, so the question is, so here the basic idea is that we order the buckets by the probability that they may contain a nearest neighbor. Okay, so how do we do? Okay, so a simple way was suggested in this entropy based LSH, which is that uh, you perturb every point repeatedly. You or rather you perturb the query point. Okay, so you have this query point q. Okay, you do some perturbation, so you do q plus minus some perturbation epsilon. Okay, and you generate a point q dashed. Okay, then you hash this q dashed. It will go to some hash packets. You do this repeatedly. So you generate this perturbation vector, which is a random vector. Okay, and then you do this repeatedly. Okay, and then you see which buckets or what is the distribution of the buckets which come up here. So which buckets are these perturbed points going more. Okay, and then you pick up those buckets. Okay, and the points in those buckets. Okay, and then you and those are your basically your target points. Okay, so those are those are the so those are your the terminology here is that those are your probing buckets. Okay, so in another way of thinking about it is that in the traditional LSH you had only one probing bucket. Now you have many probing buckets which you probe, and you think that points in these probing buckets are all near all uh, all points which need to be retrieved, and then you mm, yeah, so you obviously check afterwards whether they are actually within CR radius or not. Okay, uh, but you thin down the points which are outside, so you don't select the points which are outside CR. Okay, okay, so now but this requires sampling. So then the question comes that how many times do you want to probe. So maybe you have to probe many times. Okay, so the question is, can we do better? Okay, and more specifically, let us say, so you remember we discussed this. So in the previous this thing, you see we have not utilized the property of this hash function. Okay, so the question is, can we utilize the property of this hash function to do this better? Okay, now one of the important hash functions, so the one of the most important problems is that of L2 distance. Okay, and the hash function, if you recall, we have used is this HVBQ. Okay, which is hash function where basically you sample this uh, this so if your q is, let's say, d-dimensional. Okay, so you sample a d-dimensional vector v. Okay, uh, which is sampled from where each coordinate is sampled from Gaussian 0 comma 1. Okay, and then you sample a number b uniformly at random between 0 and w. Okay, and then you fix the width w. Okay, so the width w, if you remember, will give you how much, what is your p and q, and consequently how much your rho is. So you can adjust your w to get uh, suitable p and q. Okay, and then you have this hash function. Okay, so this is your hash function. Okay, and each hash table has many different hash functions corresponding to random values of v and b. Okay, uh, now suppose you're so just to just to illustrate the point, suppose you have chosen k is equal to 3. Okay, and then your h so this h1q, okay, this is the these are the hash buckets of the first hash table for the query queue. These may be bucket id 5, 8 and 3. These buckets are in no particular order. Okay, uh, and the so now, remember there was this idea of distance. Okay, so what is this notion of distance in this hash function space? Okay, so you can consider the probing buckets to be let's say ones that differ in one position, two position, and so on and so forth. So let's say you may have 583. So you may so this is the query bucket. So but you don't get enough recall by just querying this query bucket. So what do you do? Okay. So suppose you also query the buckets. This is hypothetical. This is not the actual multiprobe things, but suppose you query the bucket, let's say 483. Okay, uh, or 683. Okay, these are differing by one position, and this can be done for each of these guys. So you can have also 5 uh, um, 5, let's say 9 3. Okay, or you can have 5 7 3. Okay, and similarly you can have 5 8 4, and you can have 5 8 2. Okay, so these are all so these are all uh, buckets which differ in one position. Okay, like that you can have buckets which differ in two positions, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here okay, so let us go ahead. Okay, so here another thing is that you can see that I am only considering this plus one and minus one bucket. So these are neighboring buckets. Okay, so what is this notion of neighboring buckets? So if you see, at least in case of this hash function, the notion of neighboring bucket is very clear. Okay, if your projection is falling into some bucket, okay, okay, which is the idea here of hashing, then this is one neighboring bucket and this is another neighboring bucket. Okay, so I mean, it is possible that it falls into not a neighboring bucket but a bucket outside neighboring bucket, but that chance is very small. Okay, and we are not going to even consider that for multi-probe LSH. Okay, so for each of these hash functions, okay, uh, there are k hash functions. For each of these hash functions, okay, a point may fall into the actual hash bucket, okay, or it may fall into plus one hash bucket or minus one hash bucket. These are the only cases that we will consider. Okay, now you see, we can then have in the bucket space a perturbation vector. Okay, so this perturbation vector is basically so this can have, this is this delta vector, this can have -1 0 plus 1 to the power k. Okay, where k is the number of hash function in the in this particular hash table. Okay, so yeah, so you can see, like, for k is equal to 3, for example, you can see it could be like -1, yeah, so minus, so each coordinate could be -1, 0, or +1. So it will be like 3 to the power 3, many different probing buckets. Okay, so the number of probing buckets is 3 to the power 3. Now, if your k becomes higher, okay, then your number of probing buckets increases exponentially. Okay, so you cannot search all these probing buckets. Okay, so, or I mean, the number of points in all these probing buckets may be too high. Okay, so how do you deal with this issue? So you may have, so your key idea here is that you want your, query processing time to be low. And how do you keep your query processing time to be low? That you don't want to process more than a certain number of points. Okay, and here you don't have any control, so you may admit a lot of points. Okay, that defeats the whole purpose of LSH. Okay, so what is the solution? Okay, the solution is that you have this, in general, this 3 to the power k many probing buckets. Okay, is there a natural way to order these probing buckets for searching, so that you know you basically search these probing buckets in a certain order, and once you have sufficient number of data points, okay, you just stop search. Okay, so you sort of so this is somewhat related to the entropy based LSH, which you can think that you have a natural ordering of the probing buckets. Okay, and in order to do this, so we have to now utilize the property of the hash function. Okay, now what is the hash function? So you see, you have this FIQ. So given a query point Q, okay, actually any point Q, okay, uh, you have this function, okay, which is Q dot Vi plus Bi. Okay, uh, and this function, uh, and then you sort of threshold this function. Okay, so this, you get this Fi Q. Okay, and then you divide this by W, and then you take the floor, right? So this is your HIQ. Okay, now consider this one-dimensional projection. Okay, if you are given this FIQ, okay, you can compute the distance of this point Q from the positive bucket, which is the +1 bucket, from the boundary of the +1 bucket, and you can compute the distance of this point from the boundary of the -1 bucket. Okay, uh, yeah, so this you can easily compute. Okay, so basically it will be something like uh, you can just see, right? So this will be something like uh, uh, yeah, so like f dashed, the value f dashed, such that uh, f dashed by W, the floor of this is equal to HIQ plus 1. Okay, and similarly, so this will be like so your x xi plus 1, yeah, will be your f dash. So this f dash will definitely be larger than fiq. Okay, so this will be like this. Okay, so f dash minus fiq. Okay, so this point is, let's say, f dashed. Similarly you can do on the other side. Okay, so 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 the point here is that you can get, so let xi plus 1, okay, xi plus 1 and xi minus 1 be the distances of the projections from the two bucket boundaries. Okay, then what is, so this, now this now think of any 2 points p and q, okay, which are close to each other. Okay, they are supposed to fall into the same bucket. Okay, yeah. Okay, what is the distribution of fiq minus fip? Okay, so here p and q, so distance between p and q is less than or equal to r. Okay, okay, so that they are actually supposed to fall into the same bucket. Okay, now, but obviously depending on the randomness, so they are not the same points, and depending on the randomness there will be a distance between their projected values. Now this distance will also be random. Okay, and the distribution of this difference, rather not the distance but this difference, okay, is normal 0 comma some constant times the distance between p minus q. Okay, and this comes from the fact that this particular function, there is a name for it. So first of all, you see this vi is basically taken from Gaussian. Okay, and then normalized. Okay, uh, so yeah, so basically, this so you can just do some calculation here and check that this will indeed be Gaussian. Okay, this distribution will also be Gaussian with uh, mean 0. Okay, so on an average, so here the average is over all values of v and b. Okay, so on an average, this particular the mean of this distance will be 0, which is understandable because these should fall in the same bucket. So on an average they should basically fall into the same point as you choose different hash functions, and the variance will depend on the distance between p and q in the original space. So the distance is less than r. Okay, so this, if this distance is 0, then they will always fall in the same bucket. Okay, so the same point will always fall in the same bucket, but as the points go further and further, okay, they, till this distance r, on an average they are expected to fall in the same bucket, but there is a variance here. Okay, and this is also called this stable distributions. Okay, so Gaussian is a stable distribution, and that is the property that uh, we are utilizing here. Okay, okay, so now things become very simple. Okay, so we know that if we sort of believe that this is the case, okay, that fi q minus fi p is follows the distribution and this is for like any two PQ which are closed, right? So this follows this distribution. Actually, okay, yeah. So yeah, okay. So this is true. Okay. So if we believe that this is true, okay, then it is very easy to calculate what is the chance. So you have, let's say, you know, the query queue, okay, and you have this HQ, which is the bucket of the query queue, okay. Now, what is the chance that a point P, which is supposed to be within the same bucket, it is within the distance R, okay, is falling into a bucket Q plus 1. Okay, so this is that a point P's bucket is actually bucket Q plus 1. Okay, and this is nothing but, so what, so so what is the chance of that happening? That chance is dependent on the fact that how far, you know, how far this point is from here. Okay, how far the point, this Q point is from the boundary. Okay, so if the point is very close to the boundary, and then uh, you know, this is just the formula for Gaussian. Okay, so uh, so this is proportional to, actually this should be proportional to, okay, this is proportional to e to the power minus c times this xi square, yeah, xi plus 1 square, because we are measuring for plus 1. Okay, here delta is plus 1. Okay, okay, so this is the core idea, that if your query point is falling somewhere, okay, now depending on its distance of boundary, okay, there is a, the the chance of other points which are expected to fall in the same bucket will fall in the next bucket is dependent on its distance from the boundary. Okay, and that is all you need. Okay, so it does not matter, you don't have to do an exact calculation here. Okay, so what do you have to do? Okay, okay, so then so suppose if this is the case, okay, then you take this k dimensional delta vector now. Each of the coordinates is independent. Okay, so what you get is that the probability that this point P, okay, falls in the bucket HQ plus this delta, this is the perturbation vector in the bucket space. Okay, delta is this to the power k, by the way. Okay, uh, yeah, so this is just product over each of the coordinates. Okay, and then in e to the power this thing, this becomes summation of this square. Okay, so what do you need? You don't need to estimate these probabilities exactly. Okay, you need the ordering for each delta. Okay, so you can just use this particular score function. Okay, because other things are all constant. Okay, so your score function for a given delta, so just to recall what is happening here, just to summarize what is happening here, you have a query point Q. Okay, this Q is falling into a bucket H of Q. Okay. You want a probing sequence. Okay, or a sequence of probing buckets. So it's a multi-probe. So hence the name multi-probe, because you're probing multiple times and you're probing multiple buckets. Okay, so you need a probing sequence for nearby buckets. And how are the nearby buckets determined? They are determined using this vector delta. Okay, this vector delta basically embodies all nearby buckets, including the original bucket H of Q also, which corresponds to 0, 0, 0. Okay, all zeros. Okay, so and what we saw, so this delta is basically this vector delta 1 till delta k for k hash functions. Okay, and now if you can, so this can be 0 plus 1 or minus 1. In case of 0, this xi is 0 obviously. Okay, in case of plus 1 there will be a value of xi, and in case of minus 1 there will be another value of xi. Okay, um, and now what you are trying to do is you are trying to so you are just scoring all these deltas using this score function, and then you will first probe uh, yeah, so the lower scoring delta has the uh, highest probability of p being in that bucket, because it is e to the power minus c times this score function. Okay, so if you see here, it is e to the power minus c times this score function. Okay, so you start with the lowest scoring bucket and you move forward. Okay, so this is your multi-probe LSH idea. Okay, and also algorithms. Okay, now there is one small problem that I'm saying order the buckets by score, but the buckets are already exponential. Okay, so you cannot order them like this. Okay, so you need an algorithm to dynamically generate the buckets which are nearby. Okay, so how do you do this? Okay, now you know that the bucket 0, 0, 0 has the lowest score. Okay, so this is the bucket. Yeah, so your bucket 0, 0, 0 has the lowest score. In fact, uh, for any dimension, okay, if that dimension is 0, that is, that dimension is not included in the set of perturbations, okay, then the score will be lower. Okay, so this is understood. Okay, so now how do we do it? Okay, so basically the algorithm they use is actually pretty simple algorithm. So what they do is they calculate this xi square, xi plus 1 square and xi minus 1 square for all I between 1 to k. Okay, and let us call these z1, okay, till z2k. So there are 2k of these values. Okay, now uh, and one, the let's say zeroth one of this is just 0, 0, 0, 0, all 0. Okay, now all you have to do is you have to repeatedly do either shift or expand. Okay, so what is shift and expand? Shift is that so if you expand, okay, that is if you increase the number of non-zeros in this delta list, okay, you are definitely going to increase the score. Okay, so so when you so you at any stage you have one of the two choices. Okay, you can either shift or you can expand. So if you expand, okay, that means you are adding another dimension to uh, A. So how do you expand? uh, so 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 you are ordering these ZIs in, let's say, from in an increasing order, and then you take the first ZI. So now when you add this ZI, okay, this ZI may cause a shift or it may cause an expand. So okay, so you have to generate um, buckets with increasing score, which is basically your score is summation over Zi, where the i's are the ones that you have selected. Okay, now uh, your Zi's are already ordered, okay, in increasing order. Okay, so when you take the next Zi, you can either shift. So shift, basically what it does is it replaces the maximum of already selected uh, Zi with the uh, current Zi. Okay, so in this diagram you can see that this is a shift operation. Okay, so this is a shift operation. And so vertical arrows are shift operations. So here you are you have selected 3, and you are sort of replacing this 2, which is max, with 3. Okay, and at the same time this is a expand operation. Okay, and what this is doing is this is just adding 3 to the existing set. Okay, and uh, in this manner it generates the buckets with increasing order of um, increasing score, ever increasing score. Okay, and it can stop till it has generated a certain number of buckets, or it can stop till it has found um, a, uh, uh, a certain number of points. Okay, uh, okay, so and yeah, so this is a simple implementation detail that you can just use min heap to use to basically explore this all the buckets in in order. Okay, so you basically generate two different sets and insert them onto a min heap. Okay, uh, yeah, and we stop this process after a budget, either on the number of buckets or on the number of points that you have found in these buckets. Okay. Uh, okay. So this describes the multi-probe LSH. So this is a set of images on different types of data from the original paper. Okay, so this red is a basic LSH. So what we are plotting here is the recall, okay, versus the number of hash tables needed to achieve that recall. Okay, so you want ideally 100% recall. Okay, and the question is how many hash tables do you need to get that particular recall. Okay, now you see basic LSH, even to get a recall of something like 0.8, so you get 80% of the points Okay, it requires 8 hash tables in this particular example, and in this audio example it requires something like 32 hash tables, whereas your entropy based LSH, again, this is basically like it depends on also how many times you do the sampling, and the number of times you do the sampling sort of increases your time complexity, and this is, remember, this is complexity at query time. Okay, so but in any case, so the authors have chosen certain number of these things, and then they are showing that here also you need kind of more number of hash tables to achieve the same recall, whereas here the pink one is the multi-probe LSH, and the authors are showing that you need uh, generally lesser number of hash tables for achieving a certain recall. And then of course things becomes exponentially difficult. After a while you cannot increase the recall. Yeah, and this is the case always. Okay. Mm. Okay, so this describes the multi-probe LSH. So, is to summarize, uh, LSH is a powerful technique, but there are a few areas of concern. Memory usage is one of the areas of concern. Okay, so entropy and multi-probe LSH are elegant solutions that are useful in practice. Okay, and these are the papers. Okay, so this is the primary reference, so you can this is a VLDB paper, so I will also provide this paper in the website. So basically this multi-probe LSH paper will be the primary reference for this particular lecture. Okay, thank you.